Okay, did everyone have a good coffee break? How are you all feeling right now? Happy? Excited? Not bored, I hope. The reason I ask that question is that we're now going to talk about emotions. We're going to address two questions. Are emotions universal? In other words, do people around the world experience the same emotions, and if so, are they expressed in the same way in different cultures? So let's start with a definition. An emotion is a reaction to something we experience. We might react emotionally to an event, to a conversation, or to a memory, or a beautiful sunrise. These things all cause emotions. Emotions are very much part of the human experience. Now let's move on to the controversial question of whether emotions are universal. Whether people from different cultures experience the same emotions. Let me give you some background. Do you all remember the biologist Charles Darwin? Well, in 1872, Darwin argued that emotions are universal. Even if we don't understand the language a person is speaking, we can understand their feelings by looking at their face. But then in the 1950s, Margaret Mead, a well-known cultural anthropologist, argued the opposite. According to Mead, people from different cultures experience different emotions and they express them differently. Now I'm going to introduce you to the work of a psychologist by the name of Dr. Paul Ekman. Ekman is famous for his work on emotions and is recognized as one of the most important psychologists of the 20th century. Darwin and Mead had conflicting theories, and Ekman wanted to see whose theory was right. In 1968, he visited the Fore people in Papua New Guinea in the South Pacific Ocean. These were people who had no connection with the rest of the world. They had never seen photographs or films. They hadn't even seen themselves because they didn't have mirrors. With the help of a translator, Ekman told the Fore people stories related to specific emotions. For each story, he showed them photographs of Western people showing emotions through facial expressions. He asked them to choose the photograph with the facial expression that reflected the emotions in the story. Ekman found that if he told a happy story, the Fore people chose a face with a typically happy expression. If he told a sad story, they chose a sad face. Remember that these were people who had never seen movies or television. Through this research and other studies in later years, Ekman came to the conclusion that certain emotions are universal and that they are expressed through similar facial expressions. Ekman identified 7 universal emotions. These are anger, contempt, disgust, enjoyment, fear, sadness, and surprise. These 7 emotions can cover a wide range. Enjoyment, for example, covers emotions ranging from finding something funny, to being excited, to feeling a sense of peace. Sadness ranges from disappointment to grief when someone dies. Fear is another broad category, ranging from feeling nervous about flying to feeling terrified when you're in physical danger. Contempt is the feeling that you are better than someone else. You don't respect another person. It's often related to power or position in society. Disgust is the emotion you experience when you see something unpleasant or offensive, like watching someone eating a big juicy steak if you're a vegetarian. Ekman also concluded that certain facial expressions are universal. For example, it's easy to recognize happiness because a happy person is usually smiling. A smile of real happiness involves not just the mouth, but also the muscles around the eyes. If a person is angry, their eyes may be opened wide, and if someone is surprised, their mouth is likely to be open. Ekman's work is supported by a number of studies. A recent study conducted by Dr. Sophie Scott compared facial expressions for certain emotions in the United Kingdom and Namibia, a country in sub-Saharan Africa. It was evident from Scott's research that universal facial expressions for certain emotions, such as anger, fear, and sadness, occur in two very different cultures. However, it is also clear that, to a certain extent, culture influences the expression of these basic emotions. Ekman has compared the expression of emotions among American and Japanese individuals. In one study, these two groups were shown videos of unpleasant scenes. When no researcher was present, both groups displayed the same expressions of disgust. However, when a researcher was in the room, the Japanese viewers hid their feelings with smiles. Ekman suggested that in Japanese culture, it is perhaps less acceptable to show strong emotions in front of others. I think it's safe to say that there are certain universal emotions, but the precise ways in which these are expressed vary among cultures.